everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex. This is Big Baby Reviews. Today is Dale KEOWN Day, guys. So we're looking at the next issue of PITT from 1996. This is issue number 12, December 1996 to be more specific. Carbon copy of issue number 1, right? An homage to your own kind of thing. Bit of a McFarlane reference there. I don't know, but at this point in the 90s, everyone kind of started doing this. So, yeah, almost the same, I would say, as the first cover. There are a few differences, though. And originally, going through this issue, I noticed it, and I thought it was maybe just an aesthetic change in the art, and I wouldn't say disappointed, but I was like, why change it? You know, it's not a big thing, and it just felt kind of odd. Kind of like how Todd McFarlane did with Spawn, where, you know, around issue 32 or something, there was a point where they revealed his new look and his new face. I'm not sure if it's 32, but somewhere around there. And once they did, it just basically looked like Spawn's face as it had been up to that point, in the sense that it kept morphing, right? So in the early issues, he had a nose, then he didn't have a nose, then he'd have lips, no lips, you know, more skull-like, more human, ears, no ears. You know, it kind of runs the gamut for those first, like, 14, 15 issues, I think. I'm reviewing a McFarlane issue in a couple of days on Friday, and I noticed that Spawn all of a sudden, again, in later issues, he's already lost the nose, and now all of a sudden the nose is back, and he's got ears too. It's a weird issue. Anyways, I'll talk about it on Friday on that review. So the aesthetic detail I'm talking about is that basically on this cover, for some reason, PITT doesn't have his upper lip that he's always had, and all throughout the issue, he doesn't as well. So I was like, oh man, that's kind of a weird thing, but not the end of the world, I guess. But he made that aesthetic decision to change it. It's actually not what I thought it was, and there's some sort of fake out at the end, and I won't spoil it, so you stick around for the review. But yeah, notice that missing top lip, and also just the extra little bit of veins here, and how the teeth aren't actually, you know, they're kind of like PITT's, but PITT has bigger teeth here. His canine teeth aren't quite so big. So there's some slight aesthetic changes here that you'll notice throughout the issue that pay off in the plot line. I thought it was just an aesthetic thing real quick as I went through it, but then I figured out by reading it what was actually going on there. So there we go, guys. Credits, pencils, inks, and story. So Dale KEOWN is basically doing it all at this point. Colors, Dale KEOWN and Brad Hafey. Okay, so he's getting some help, I guess, but he's pretty much doing everything but the lettering. So props to him. I don't know. I feel like he's kind of discovered, I think last issue, I don't know if I brought it up, but it feels like we're getting some of that halftone look in the background here, which is something you don't get. I mean, I don't know what the printing process is here, but I feel like he's using halftones before people were using halftones to make it look a little more vintagey in its presentation in the comic on glossy paper. Could be wrong on that, but it's certainly, I think I noticed it last issue, and I'm going to mention it here because I'm seeing it again over a lot of these lighter textures. So continuing on from last issue, we see young baby PITT. I don't know if that's baby PITT, kid PITT, or teen PITT. Not exactly sure, but PITT has been thrown into a pit. But as they say in the narration, I'll kind of paraphrase, but because he's invulnerable and stuff, has not fully invulnerable, but has high healing factor. You know what? I should just read it. But thanks to nearly invulnerable body tissue and a supernatural healing factor, he was alive. There we go. The book always explains it better than I could. And this is kind of interesting because it seems like, and as they mentioned in the narration, it's the spot where they've kind of thrown out all of the experiments they've been conducting that didn't work out. So in a weird kind of way, these are all kind of PITT's half-brothers, right? So the same could be said for those who arrived before him, failed experiments discarded like household trash. So yeah, these experiments didn't quite work out. So PITT is one of the ones that actually kind of worked out. I guess maybe not to their standards, but he was able to survive, and that's why we have the story of PITT. But this again relates back to the origin sequence from last issue, and here we see him climbing out of this PITT climbing out of the pit, and then back to where we were on Earth before he went into this kind of flashback hallucination. He's had a few of these. There's a lot of like metaphysical kind of telekinesis and all those words, mind stuff going on with PITT, which is kind of interesting. You know, I never really associated with that kind of aspect into the PITT storyline, but I'm realizing at this point that it's a big part of it. The psychic connections and psychic powers, that's the word I was looking for. Great hatching on the art here. Great shot of PITT. All of this works, you know, to read this this panel, I feel art-wise, and follow it into here, even though, you know, this is not necessarily a standard kind of way of, you know, following storytelling flow. But I will admit that the first time I went through it, I kind of went from here to here, right? Because reading flow, I just felt this was a easier jump than down here. But you're actually supposed to go down here like the art, right? So I get where he was going. It's almost there, but to make it really sing, unfortunately, you know, I guess he doesn't want to cover up Pitt, but I feel like this little bit of narration here, which is supposed to be second, should have been maybe like up here, unfortunately. Hide a bit of Pitt's masculine chest and make sure that the reading direction is a little more obvious, because the image is kind of having us go and follow the arm and go here rather than down to look at these spikes, to be honest. You know, a peripheral kind of sees these, they're big enough. So just, yeah, putting that up there would improve it, even reading wise, even though it would cover up some of the art. So I guess it depends exactly, you know, where your priorities will lie at that point. And, you know, the artist, obviously the creator, is free to do what he likes. Just a lowly suggestion from a crappy comic book artist. So a little bit of B story with Timmy. There's a B and C story in this. And Timmy just having nightmares and knowing that Pitt's in trouble and he's full of rage and stuff. That's what's going on here. Kudos to Dale Keown for drawing, you know, pedestrian scenes very well. You know, he's not throughout, he's doing pretty well. The backgrounds are maybe a little more kind of laid back in some instances, but like I think he's doing a pretty good job overall compared to most of the image artists. You know, the scenes are evocative. You understand what's going on. You pull back a bit to get a nice big shot. And I mean, this is a very simple way of establishing, I'm assuming, New York City, right? It seems like the Empire State Building. But what a great way to do it simply and quickly. Just a clever storytelling trick there. Here we get a reference to a Pitt miniseries that I don't really know much about, and it was drawn by another artist, so I don't know if I'm really kind of into getting it. But at least they make reference to it here. And it says that there's these cover up, those M3 battle suits were literally, excuse me, ripped apart. So apparently there's some sort of, you know, cyborg force or whatever that's attacked and fought Pitt in this miniseries, and they're headed northwest into Canada. So makes sense. It seems more and more of Pitt is moving towards Canada and happening in Canada. Dale Keown's Canadian, so makes sense, right? So some close-up shots of Pitt once again, and I mean, he's just jumped. It's just like I'm laughing because, like, what is this sequence? It's just hilarious. It's, you know, Pitt having, I guess, jumped from where he was before, just soaring through the air, you know? Is he using his arms like wings or something, or just to like push against the wind? He's able to jump really far and soar for a bit. I don't know. Just, yeah, this sequence is a little bit ridiculous. And again, that detailed no upper lip. And I will point out that his coloring maybe is slightly off. I'm not quite sure there. Could be wrong because the coloring keeps, you know, changing and under different lighting conditions can look different, obviously. Not quite sure what Pitt's skin tone is supposed to be. Is he more grayish or is he like humanly skin toned? I don't know. So again, we're out in some farm, it seems like in Saskatchewan. It said Northwest Canada. I would assume it's Saskatchewan. And what's handy about having stories take place in Saskatchewan is there's, you know, just fields and flat land in Saskatchewan. So it's pretty easy backgrounds. So as much as he was putting work into the backgrounds earlier in these pages here, in the action pages, not having to put so much work in there. But we do then again start up the trope every issue. You know, he's giving you what you want, what you expect from Pitt, and it's Pitt fighting monsters again. In this case, not specifically monsters, cybernetic kind of. You think they're guys in the suits, but you'll find out that that's not exactly what's going on. But it seems that way. And I feel like, yeah, this guy here, you can kind of tell when. He's copied this and pasted it and shrunk it over here, right? And this guy here, he's done the same thing take that guy, copy, paste it, shrink it, and put it back here. And I don't know if you can see this on the screen, it's pretty like precise, but like you'll notice that all the lines are the same. And when you tend to shrink it down, there's something that happens to the resolution that's, you know, there's no way you could draw these lines down here at that size. you know, these hands and as much detail as there is here. The only way you can get this is by drawing it here and shrinking it. And there's all the telltale signs of that. Like this being way in the background is just too small to have that much detail. You know, it's almost like when you would, if you do this, you would want to then go in and white out some stuff and keep it more open and airy so it looks further back. It's not the end of the world, you know. I'm just looking at it more from a crafts making kind of angle. You know, I've done it before on some iPad projects and stuff, but there's ways of, you know, desaturating the color. First of all, like I said, not putting too much detail in the original drawing, right? Maybe you can also less detail here, shrink it down, do this, and then come back and add more detail there, right? That's another option too. Anyways, maybe getting too technical there. Hopefully there are a few people out there who listen who make their own comics as well. But cool double page splash and kind of an interesting design too with these guys. I think overall it looks really good. And this, just the fact that they're headless, I think is kind of hilarious. It's, you know, people would say, oh, he kind of cheaped out and, you know, didn't create a head for these characters. But no, I mean, the design is amazing and very intricate. I just think it's hilarious they decided not to have heads. And you kind of understand why. I mean, basically, these are drones before drones even really was in the lexicon. But these are drones being controlled from further away. When you find out by who, though, that's kind of a hilarious bit of the plot. But so, yeah, they end up, of course, confronting Pitt here and beating the crap out of him. And, of course, Pitt will retaliate once we get through some more sea story with Reiki here, and they're headed that way, where this whole conflict is happening. Again, Alberta, Saskatchewan, somewhere around there. Great drawing. Textures and stuff, and the inking. Dale KEOWN is always best when he inks himself, I think. That's just like a great shot. It feels like, you know, imagine I mean, today the bodybuilders are pretty much or almost this size, so it's not that unrealistic. Back in the 90s, it kind of was. Man, they were starting to get pretty big, those bodybuilder dudes. But yeah, just I find the body language and the hunched over pose and like just a very good bit of body language with this hulking guy eating his chips. Or excuse me, eating his cereal. Cool action, not cheaping out on the panels. Good storytelling, huge musculature. And again, yeah, as you go through it, you'll notice, you know, there's some little telltale signs of things are not quite as they seem. So again, the upper lip, these kind of muscles here that are showing up on the arm of Pitt, these round kind of stud shapes, not habitually there for Pitt. So why all of a sudden are we getting a little bit of this, you know? Is it a new way of him drawing the tricep? You know, he's never done it before. So I feel like that's another telltale sign of what's coming. And again, it's a good kind of study of the art to see how he kind of hints at it throughout and then see how it resolves. Not saying Pitt's the cleverest story, but it is pretty consistent in, again, what it presents. And I've said it before, I do feel like Pitt, out of all the secondary image series, is what we expected is what we got. I think took a long time and it moved from image to full bleed and took years and years to come out, but we got that. I think this is a production snafu. We're still getting a bit of the cutout lines from the actual page that Dale KEOWN is probably producing this art on. Maybe a bit of deadline-itis. He's not cheaping on the details here, but over here he kind of did them real quick or in Photoshop or something. I don't know. It's not the end of the world. He's not doing it on the main figures. But yeah, so we find out that basically what's going on is that these kids here have got virtual reality gear, and they are the ones controlling these cybernetic drones, beating the crap out of Pitt. And we're going to find out that, of course, some baddie on the next page is in control of that, right? And these Axiom heroes, well, they've shown up and kind of stopped the party. So just as one of these guys was about to punch down on a farmer, contact was cut and Pitt jumps off. Good lighting, good hatching on this guy. Is he the leader? Is he MODOK? He's a bit of both. Still feels kind of Marvel derivative, but, you know, a lot of the image stuff is, so. Good kind of, I don't know if that almost reminds me of Scully. Mulder and Scully, what was that show? Oh my God. X-Files. And yeah, this is how we ended with our buddy Roth coming back. Northwest coast of Canada. This stretch is no stranger to Black Death. It usually presents itself as a pod, of stranded killer whales, or a vicious ebony sludge coating and suffocating its victims. But never have these beaches given way to anything so dark, so vile, so Roth. Like, I'm not, is Roth in that context just his name? Is there an expression I don't know about in English that's about Roth? Is Roth like British and he's trying to say wrath? I'm not quite sure on the wording of at least this bit here. But the presentation of it's kind of cool. This whole sequence, I think, is pretty well done. This guy kind of hulking out of the water. Pretty cool. And that's what we're left with this issue of PITT. Just some more kind of not so great fan art, I think. And just wanted to mention one of the ads. Well, okay, so PITT 13 Roth is back. We know that. And he wants a rematch. So, again, the monster versus monster trope next issue. I guess we can assume it's going to be between PITT and his half-brother Roth. And this here, the Incredible Hulk and PITT. I'm not sure if I think I have PITT Darkness. Is that possible? Or PITT something else? I'm not quite sure. I don't know about the Incredible Hulk versus PITT. I'd like to find it before I get through my review of the whole PITT series. So hopefully I can review them. Right now I don't have them. So maybe something I should add to my list right now and start looking for. So there you go, guys. That is it for my review of PITT issue number 12. If you're subscribed and still watching, thank you so much for sticking around. I really appreciate it. If you're watching but you're not subscribed, please do so below. It only takes a quick second. It helps the channel out. It helps us grow. So everyone out there watching, thank you so much and have an awesome day.
Like! Subscribe! Like! Subscribe!
King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13. 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents Star Crasher one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at KINGCOMICS.CA, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby.